Hello guys, welcome back to my channel, and in this video we're going to learn how to divide decimal numbers. So let's get started. So dividing decimal numbers is the same as dividing whole numbers, basically numbers without the decimal point. So what is the catch here? The catch is, since we are dividing decimal numbers, with that comes a decimal point. So how are we supposed to treat that decimal point? We just move the decimal point to make it easy. So we'll be learning how we can move that decimal point. So there is this one rule whenever we divide decimal number. So the rule is, we don't divide a number by a decimal number. Now, as I said, a number. This number can be any number. It can be a whole number or a decimal number. Right. But whenever we are getting a divisor, which is a decimal number, we first make that number a whole number. Okay, now what is a divisor? Divisor is the number by which we are going to divide my main number. Okay, so there will be two cases here. Okay, so we'll learn the concept case by case. Let's take case number one. So case number one is, we are dividing a decimal number by a whole number. It's an easy case. Since my divisor here is already a whole number, okay, this is my divisor. So now here the rule will not be applied, because as I said, whenever you get a divisor as a decimal number, the number which will be in the denominator, we'll be converting that number first to a whole number. But since in the first case the number is already a whole number, so this rule won't be applied. It's an easy case. Okay, let's take an example. So the example is 4.8 divided by 3. So my divisor is already a whole number. Okay, so very simple. So 4.8 is a decimal number, okay, and we can write this number as 48/10 also, right? However you like, or maybe you can, you can keep this point aside and we'll treat it as a whole number. And after dividing the number, we'll again place my decimal point. So right now my number is 48. Okay, so 48 divided by 3. 48 divided by 3 is 16. Okay, now the only thing left is to keep my decimal point back, since 48 was a tenth, so it will be 16th tenth. So when I remove this text and convert it back to the number, it will be 1.6. Basically, you see there is only one digit after the decimal point in my 4.8 as a number. So after we get my answer, we'll follow the same pattern to put the decimal point back. So this was case number one. It was very easy. So we learned how we can divide a decimal number by a whole number. So in the case two, so case 2 is divide a decimal number by a decimal number, which is the main lesson of this video. So now this is my divisor. I've got my divisor as a decimal, and as the rule says, first you have to convert your divisor into a whole number. Now what's the logic here? Take an example. So the example is 6.4 divided by 0.8. So you see both of the numbers are decimals here, and my divisor is also a decimal. So here comes the rule. The rule says that make your divisor a whole number. So whenever you are making your divisor a whole number, here, this is my divisor, right? So whenever we are making my divisor a whole number, the rule is you have to move the decimal right in both of the numbers. Okay, so the divisor here is 0.8. Okay, so this is my decimal point, and we'll be counting how many numbers or digits are after the decimal point. So since there is only one digit after the decimal point, we will be moving my decimal point to the right by one step only. Okay, but for that we will count looking at the divisor number, the number which is a divisor here. We'll look at that number and we'll decide that how many times, by how many steps we are supposed to move my decimal point to the right. Okay, always remember, I write the rule on the screen also. When we make divisor a whole number, we look at the number to count number of digits after the point, and based on that we move decimal point to the right. Okay, so now my numbers are 6.8 and 0.8. Was it 0.8 or no, it was 6.4 and 0.8. Okay, so since I've got only one digit after the decimal point in 0.8, we'll be moving the decimal point in both of these numbers by one step towards the right. So as I said, towards the right, it will be this side. Okay, so when I move my decimal number by one step towards the right, it will come now here. Okay, so what will be my number now? It will become 8 because it's 8.0. Okay, so after point, if we have only 0, it doesn't matter, we can just directly write it as 8. And for 6.4, we'll move the point towards right by one step. So it will be, now my point will come after 4. So it will be 64.0 will be 64. Okay, so now you've got both of your numbers. 64 divided by 8. Now this way you made your divisor a whole number. Now it is as easy, it has almost become like a whole number. So now you know how to divide whole number. So in the table of 8, I get 64 by 8 times. So my answer is 8 here. Since now we have no decimal point, we don't have to put any decimal in this final answer. So just keep in mind, it is not always necessary that after dividing a decimal number, you'll always get a decimal number as an answer. You sometimes get a whole number also. Okay, we'll do one more question, and this question will be quite complex as compared to the previous one. So this time my number is 1.24 divided by 0.2. So this time I've kept my number little bigger, okay, because there are 2 digits after the decimal point. So what is my rule? The rule is we have to convert my divisor, which is this, into a whole number. So again, we look at the divisor to decide by how many steps we have to move my decimal point towards the right. So again, in the divisor, there is only one digit after the decimal point. So we have to move my decimal point towards right by one step only in both of the numbers. So we'll write the numbers again. And in case of 0.2, now the decimal point will come after 2. So my number becomes 2. And in case of 1.24, my decimal number will move towards right by one step. So now my decimal point will come after 2. So my number has become 12.4. Okay. So now these are my final numbers. So again, my main number is again a decimal. So as I said, if we get the final number as a decimal, so we'll keep the decimal point aside and we'll treat it as a whole number, just for the sake of multiply, how we multiply whole numbers. And once we get my answer, we'll place my decimal accordingly. So my number is 124 divided by 2. So this is very easy. We have to divide it by 2, basically divide it into half. So what is the half of 124? It is 62. But this is not my final answer. We have to place my decimal point back. So in my number, it was 12.4. So you see how many digits were there after the decimal points. We always count from the right. Okay. So there is only one digit after the decimal point. So in the final answer also, we'll place the decimal point after one digit from the right, which is like this. So my final answer will be 6.2. So guys, you see in today's video how we can divide decimal numbers by dividing the question in two cases. In the first case, we saw how we can divide a decimal number by a whole number, and in the second case, we saw how we divide two decimal numbers. So I hope you really learned the concept well, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much for watching.